Steve Peterson is on a much needed vacation, so I'm filling in for him as MC. I'm Rick Ramos. I'm the interim executive director for COC. Some of y'all know me. Some of you guys have seen me in the back for previous trainings, kind of hanging out and manning the food station over there. Want to say a big thank you to the BKC team as well for helping support this, and the team at the Mission and Kern for helping support this also. We have 4 presentations today. It's going to be a pretty packed day. We have coffee, cookies, snacks with all bars of water in the back, and we will be having lunch about noonish. So expect for that to take place. And we are looking at going to probably about 1:30 and maybe a little bit after. We have domestic violence annual training presented by the Open Door Network, Erica Melendez. We have fair housing, mainstream benefits, and cultural sensitivity. So without further ado, I am going to present Erica Melendez. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist with the Open Door Network and is the counselor supervisor. She has worked with the Open Door Network for about 4.5 years and was previously the lead therapist for the child team. She has also worked at Bakersfield Behavioral Hospital with clients that have severe diagnoses and are struggling with suicide, psychosis, and depression. So without further ado, Erica Melendez.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me in the back without the mic? Okay, I'm not going to use the mic. It's too much. Over here so it doesn't back up. So, as we said, I'm Erica Melendez. Some of you may know me. I was previously Erica Collier, so some of you may know me by that name. This topic can be very triggering, as most of you might figure. We are also going to talk about sexual assault because that can be intertwined with domestic violence. So I'd like you guys to listen to your body. That might sound weird, and I'm a therapist, so that's why I'm saying that. But if you guys need to get up and move around, you need to fidget, you need to check out for a minute and be on your phone, you need to scribble on your paper, you need to go outside, whatever you need to do to feel safe while I'm presenting, that is totally fine. I'm a little anxious because I was late this morning, so forgive me, and that's why I have my fidget. So I wanted to just say that because this topic can just be very triggering for some people. And I'm going to go over things that some people may not know about domestic violence. I think we usually think it's physical violence, but there's so many other things that are wrapped into it. And then I provided everybody with, or I provided and they did, a power and control wheel. It is very inclusive. The older one had her all over it. So it was the stigma that women are the only ones that experience domestic violence as the survivor, and that's not true. So you guys might notice that, which is really nice. And then I'm going to provide a equality wheel, but I will have him send that, or someone will send it to all you guys, because it's nice to see this is what maybe a domestic violence relationship might look like, but what does a healthy relationship look like? Am I doing the clicking?
Yes.
Okay. So like I said, tough conversation. So if anyone needs to debrief after, I'll also hang around for a little bit. I know there's somebody presenting after me, but if anyone needs to just talk to me or ask for resources, like I'll totally hang around for a little while. So we will start with domestic violence as a whole. Because you guys may also hear IPV, which is like intimate partner violence. So that is a type of domestic violence, but it's not the only kind. The Open Door Network right now, we do only, at the outreach location, we do only work with intimate partner violence, but we are working on grants and funding to work with all types of domestic violence. So, like I said, most of us know about like romantic relationships, right? Husband, wife, registered partner, all that stuff. But then we start to move outside of that, right? So, and there's a little wheel over here. And oh, I forgot to say, if you guys want to take pictures or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. So basically, it can also be things like a child to a parent, right? If it's a parent to a child, we usually call that child abuse. You don't usually say domestic violence, but it's still that. But as an adult child, it could be vice versa, right? Like if the adult child is abusing the parent, and then back and forth. It can also be like a grandparent and an aunt. It can be a mom and a sister. You know, it can be any family member that there's like a first degree, and then we move outside as the second degree of like the grandparents, aunts and uncles, and then third degree would be like very like far out in your family line, so great grandparents, great aunts, and so a lot of people don't know that. They think it's just intimate partners or maybe kids and parents, but it's domestic violence is really all of these things. Defining abuse and what is abuse? So a lot of us know, right? I think for some people it is also like, what is abuse to me? Because some of us grow up in cultures or families where things are normalized. So you may ponder, is that abuse after my presentation today? So 8 program principles of like what we define as domestic violence or abuse, right? So the learned behavior, it's reinforced in society. I mean, we see it in movies, we see it in TV, we see it in music, we see it all over the place, right? There's no justification for it, but it happens every day. It's generational, meaning it's not a gene, it's not genetic. It's that this is how my grandparent raised my parent, and now my parent's raising me that way, and I might raise my child that way, or my niece and nephew, or whoever. This is very important, right? People are not responsible for their partner's abusive behavior or other people's abusive behavior. And they can't really control that person. But a lot of people feel like it's their fault or they did something. Usually that comes from childhood trauma or childhood wounds. This does say chemical abuse and domestic violence are 2 separate issues. I do agree they do need to be addressed separately, but I think that they do overlap. And so we commonly will see substance use or chemical use when there's domestic violence. Usually, in most cases, the abuse would be addressed separately because the aggressor, we want to help them too. But usually it's not very safe to help them and the survivor together. So for example, as a therapist, I would not do couples counseling with someone that has domestic violence because it's just not safe for them. This is not also inclusive, I just realized. I did not put this together, but each person, I know it says woman, but each person has their own answer and timing to address their abuse. As you can see, even the research is very stigmatized in that only women are abused. Types of abuse. So emotional, psychological, those are kind of different. You might say they sound the same and they can be the same, but basically emotional is going to be more like, why are you crying? Like, suck it up. Or psychological is, I don't know, I put my hair clip and I come back and it's gone. And I'm like really looking for it. And I go ask my partner, hey, did you move my clip? And he did, but he's not going to tell me. That's called gaslighting. And that would be a form of psychological abuse. That's a very, very minor example, right? But I think that happens a lot to people and they don't know it's abuse. They think that they're crazy or they think they're the problem. Physical is the one we typically know, right? So hitting, pushing, slapping, choking, all of those type of things. Sexual, which the Open Door Network kind of separates like how we, data-wise, how we have clients come in. But like I said earlier, I think sexual abuse overlaps domestic violence. Sexual abuse is not always an intimate partner. Obviously, it can be other people. And then financial is another one that's not talked about a lot either, but I think it happens a lot, especially for people, I think sometimes that are in relationships where one person is in control and they want to flee. And it's like they have to stay because they don't have the finances to go somewhere else. So these are the types of abuse. I think there's other subcategories, but these are the main ones we'll be talking about. So physical abuse. So basically any intentional unwanted contact, right? Something on your body, behaviors that cause you to have injury, disability, and even death. Okay? And then here's some examples. So even like not allowing someone to leave, right? Blocking the doorway, pulling them, holding them where they're at and they can't move. Those things would be considered physical abuse. These other things I think are things we would probably think about. But even on the bottom, you can see like excessive tickling. That's more so with children, but I think that does happen with adults. Driving recklessly, not letting the person out of the car. So these are examples of physical abuse.
Question.
Yeah.
I've always been under the impression that as a mandated reporter, like there's no discrepancy or room for like discretion. So you just report whatever abuse, especially elders. But what would you suggest? Like, is there room for discretion depending on circumstance, or is it just like reported?
So for you guys in the back, he's asking about mandated reporting, like if there's a discretion based on this type of violence. So in the state of California, domestic violence is not a mandated report. If it's a child, but then we're going to term that as child abuse, even if it's domestic violence. So if they're 18 and older, unless they are 65 and older, then you would make an APS report, right? So Adult Protective Services, which some of you or maybe most of you work with adults. But other than those protected classes, domestic violence is not reportable. And so if you have a client or someone you're serving that is reporting it, you then have to ask them, do you want me to help you? I can help you file a police report. I can help you find the resources, but it's not a mandated report, which sounds really weird, right? Yeah.
For
Go ahead.
For the mandated reporter, how you said it's usually for children?
Yeah, so 18 and under. Or sorry, 17 and under.
What if it's their parents? Then would you report it?
Yeah, if there's, because mandated reporting is about suspicion, right? So if it's a minor, so 17 and under, or an older adult, 65 and older, or if it's somebody that has a disability and they fall under that protected class. So they may not be 65, they may have some type of developmental delay or something. So, but in regards to a child, or it could be an adult that's like developmentally delayed, you would file if you felt it was suspicion.
I mean, like if it's not towards the child, but it's their parents.
Oh, like domestic violence witnessing, sure. I think that is a case-by-case scenario because it could be like the parents are arguing and yeah, there's testing going on and things like that. But if you as the service provider, if you feel like your client is in danger or they're afraid to go home, they're not going to be okay if that continues to happen, that's a suspicion. Are they maybe going to go out and investigate that report because it is emotional abuse? And there's not, that's the thing with CPS, they have to have physical evidence for APS. So I would say report it. I always go by the side of like report it because they'll tell you if they can take it or not. And then you did your due diligence or your duty as a service provider, depending on what your title is. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I know it's weird, right? Like how weird that you don't. Because at the open door, a lot of the children that come through and their victimization is domestic violence, it's actually domestic violence witnessing. It's not necessarily direct abuse to them. It's more of them witnessing family members or parents. So emotional and psychological abuse. Okay. Name calling, like I said, yelling, screaming, intentionally embarrassing somebody, controlling, isolation, gaslighting, threats, blackmail. Okay. All of these things would be emotional and psychological. I think a lot more people experience this than they know. And I'll pause for a minute so you guys can take some pictures. Sexual abuse. Okay. So sexual abuse is basically any behavior in which a person is pressured or coerced to participate in sexual activity and they have not given consent. Right? So maybe most of us know that. But this can also be things too, like tampering with birth control. Do people know what stealthing is? So stealthing is when in the middle of intercourse somebody removes the condom. So that is considered sexual assault. When somebody removes a condom during intercourse, it's called stealthing. So you have a new term now. Yeah. So it's that one on the very bottom. So there's even stuff like that. Again, not something that maybe someone would think is abuse, right? Or that they would report or that they would even get help for. Yes. Say again? Yes. Yes. So that's a good question. She said without the other person's knowledge, yes. So it's non-consensual. Usually the person doesn't know. Some people in the room might be like, how would you not feel it? But I think if you're having a lot of anxiety already, right, you're not in your body, you're not going to feel that. And I think if someone is doing that, they probably have already done things to kind of make you feel uncomfortable, so you're not going to say anything. Not always the case, but I think that's usually the situation. Tampering with birth control, which some of us have heard that before, right? We have survivors that are high class, right? We have kids that come from very well-off families. So sexual assault does not discriminate. It happens to everybody, unfortunately. So I'm not going to read all this, but you guys will get the PowerPoint. Oh, what happened? I'm sorry. Yes.
But it says tampers with birth control, wouldn't that be the same thing as popping the
It would. There's no overlap, right? Because condoms are. She also is tampering with birth control the same as poking holes in the condom. Yes. It's just a different way of tampering, right? Versus like someone not saying they're taking their birth control and they're not, saying I got an IUD, which is a form of birth control, but I did it, right? So, but yes, doing that would be a form of control too, right? So defining rape in California. Like I said, I'm not going to read too much, right? But it says an offender commits the crime of rape by engaging in sexual intercourse with another person who's not the offender's spouse. Although I think that's changed, I think, the terminology, because it's not always a spouse. Not everybody is married nowadays, right? Under any of the following circumstances, right? So the victim can't give consent. There was force and violence. They were unable to resist because they were given substances and they were under the influence of something. So you guys will have this on the PowerPoint that is sent to you guys. And yeah.
So I just want to say, when a man and a woman are having intercourse,
Yeah.
and the woman says, "Go ahead, I'm on birth control," right?
Yeah.
Usually, a man, if it happens that she's pregnant, whatever, and she was on birth control, you're not thinking it's abuse due to the fact that it was your consent to still do it. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I think that, so he's kind of just making a comment about, like, if you're having intercourse and your partner says, yeah, I'm on birth control, like whatever form of it is, but then they end up getting pregnant, does that, that for that person, that may have not felt consensual because you were told that they were on birth control, right?
So then I think it escalates because you don't know that that's form of
Sure.
abuse.
Sure.
Whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But the woman's pregnant already, so.
Yeah, so then, you have to work through that. But I think that does happen to a lot of people, right? They're told that and then it happens. Financial abuse involves controlling the victim's ability to acquire or use their money or maintain their financial resources. So some examples. So giving your partner an allowance or somebody an allowance and then you control it. Oh, you can only purchase this thing with this money that I give you. Or I'm only paying my portion of the bills, so you gotta cover the others. Like, that's too bad, right? Preventing people from working, we see that a lot with our clients here up in Florida. Putting money in your account, but you can't access the money. Right? Refusing to provide money for necessities. Maxing out credit cards without consent. So these are just some different examples, right? Stealing, like that one would be kind of obvious. Digital abuse. So this is newer, right? Especially with COVID, it brought on a lot of conversation about all this. So, right, controlling social media, this happens a lot. Even location, right? Like a lot of us have, our partner has our location, or our family member has our location, things like that. Making posts that are like insulting or humiliating, sending unwanted explicit photos. And just so you guys know, this is newer. I want to say it's over the last couple of years. In the state of California, if a minor has nude photos of themselves, that is pornography. That is child pornography. And if that minor got caught, even if it's a picture of themselves, it is still pornography. So just so you guys are aware of that. Yeah.
So a child has pictures. Child pornography. Is it parents that get in trouble?
The parents probably would be talked to, but the minor can be charged.
Okay.
Yeah. And if a friend or a partner sent pictures of themselves when they're a minor, that's also now that minor is in possession of child pornography. Right. So just something to kind of share about kids. Adults can send nudes or whatever back and forth to each other, right? That's fine. Except if you're going to humiliate somebody, don't do that. Right. So constant texting, going through your phone, using technology. technology to track you. I'm glad that I got a laugh out of you guys. I love that. This is a serious topic, right? So this is some more legality stuff, right? So disturbing the peace and coercive control. So this kind of plays into stuff like restraining orders. If someone shows up, they can have a restraining order, right? Or like if a drop off or pickup of your children, something happens. Coercive control is things like isolating somebody, depriving them of basic needs, all that stuff. So you might question, is any one type of abuse worse than any other type? Does abuse have a longer lasting effect? Should we compare our abuse to others? A lot of people do that, right? And I want to say that everybody's experience is valid. Some people may have a more severe experience, but that doesn't make yours any less valid than theirs. Patterns of abuse. So the pattern we're mostly going to see, right, is power and control. And it's usually like a current intimate relationship. And again, that could be a family member. It doesn't have to be romantic. I have a video, but I heard them saying the videos are kind of being weird, and I don't know if I have time to show it. When am I supposed to be done?
You got another 20 minutes?
20 minutes? Okay.
Does this class meet the requirement for the sexual harassment prevention training annual?
I don't think so, because this is more focused on DV. I know for a minute we were talking about sexual assault, but it's specifically DV. So if I have time, we can show this at the end. Okay. Cycle of violence, which you guys have the power control wheel, which kind of also goes in a a cycle, right? So usually tension builds. Well, usually people are in the honeymoon phase, right? So that's usually the first few months of a relationship, or I like to say even in friendships, family relationships, right? Like we have a good time, even as siblings, right? As kids, we like love each other. Now we're fist fighting all the time as adults. So some type of honeymoon phase, tension building, explosion. Usually after an explosion, people apologize, we let it go. But unfortunately, because it wasn't addressed, then we go back into the honeymoon phase and it starts all over again, right? What do you guys think keeps people in their abusive relationships?
Fear.
Fear? I like that one, for sure. Yeah. Comfortable. Yeah. That's kind of weird, right? Like, how am I comfortable in an abusive relationship? But it's because of what I know. That's what makes it comfortable. Yes. Dependency. Love bombing. Yeah. Do we know what love bombing is? You said love bombing. For those of you who don't know, that's like I just met this person and week one or even date one, I'm like, I love you. I want to marry you. And I'm sending you messages all day. And I'm sending you flowers to your house and your birth. And I'm bringing you. And it's like, it's a little much, right? Yeah. Guilt. Children, that's a very good one.
It might be too that, but I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting the fact that they made a bad decision or that
Sure.
the wrong person.
So I think that goes along
So
with guilt.
sometimes they even
Pride.
Pride.
Yeah. Yeah. Pride. Yes. Mark.
Just because it's generational.
Yeah. Generational trauma.
You can change a person.
Changing a person. Yeah. Give me one more and then we'll. Vulnerability. Yeah. If you're vulnerable, right? One more. Denial. All of these plus more. And they all kind of go together, right? If we think about them. Returning to the honeymoon stage, right? Why might survivors get stuck in relationships, right? You guys just said. Believing violence is normal, jealousy is a sign of love, right? If they're not being mean to me, do they like me? And we're taught that as children, right? If someone's picking on me as a child, it's common in older generations to say, oh, well, they like me, it's okay, right? Violence is a sign of love, peer pressure, fear, financial, all the things you guys said. Believing no one can help me, family, children. This is what love looks like. You guys have this wheel, so you guys have been able to kind of look at it. This is definitely the one that's not inclusive, though, because you can see they have the, but that's not dated anymore. So just some statistics on intimate partner violence. The male statistics are underreported. We know men underreport, but honestly, I think women underreport too, because again, it's shameful and I feel guilty if I'm talking about this. So I'll give you guys a second to take pictures if you want to. Great. And we can see, right, I'm going to use the term people of color. I think that's okay because I am not a person of color, right? But we can see that it's much higher. But again, I think because I don't know if the reporting is always accurate, right? 1 in 4 men, I think that has even increased. I think it's 1 in 3, and I think men is 1 in 7 now, not 1 in 10. Red flags, all the things we've talked about, right? Accusing you of cheating, jealousy, all of the jealousy stuff, isolation, I saw you, controlling behavior. And then these things are kind of the love bombing, right? Over here, the quick movement stuff.
I was just curious of that source of the citation, if you wouldn't mind just really read CDC. Thank you.
Yep. It looks like the latest study on this PowerPoint is 2018, but I'm sure there's been more studies because this has become more prominent. You're welcome. Unrealistic expectations. The hypersensitivity is more of the aggressor. I don't want people to go, oh wait, so like as a survivor, I'm not supposed to be sensitive, right? Blaming others, disrespectful, cruel to other people, right? Animals, children, a lot of codependency, abuse, right? Physical responses. Some people may not realize these, right? Aches, pains, twitching, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, nightmares are not on here. On guard, I think on guard might be on here, but it's not right where I'm watching every move that I do. This one's really important. There's a study that shows that Kaiser and the CDC did. It's called the ACE study, that shows that people with very complex trauma, so stuff like this, will have health issues later in life. And we're talking even things like cancer, diabetes, autoimmune disorders. Emotional responses, right? Anxiety, depression, shame, panic attacks, feeling dissociated, which is like emotional, uncomfortable with feelings, uncomfortable with my body. Oh, wait a second. This is more of the cognitive, meaning like thoughts, right? Confusion, I can't remember things, can't focus, I'm on guard all the time, suicidal thoughts, unable to trust people, hopeless, right, about the future. Behaviors, right? So I isolate, I'm antisocial, I'm more emotional, I'm aggressive, self-harm, substance use, all of these kind of things. And these are things that will happen to you with other traumas, just so that if people are like, I experienced these things, but this has never happened, you may have another trauma you're dealing with. So assertive, right? We want to teach our clients or the people we work with how to be assertive. But this sometimes can turn into controlling, right? So again, it's not inclusive. It's talking about just women, but this happens to men too, right? I think it depends on the family you grew up in, right? All of us might have been trained, whether we're women or men, we might have been trained to just please people, right? We can't stand up for ourselves. We can't be assertive. We can't tell people what we need. This is really common, right? Passive, passive-aggressive, or aggressive. Passive-aggressive, I think, is much harder for people to know because someone can seem like they're joking, but they're not. Or they might say something underlying, you know, a microaggression towards somebody. And often people get away with a behavior because they're being passive-aggressive, right? If the person's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Would you mind giving an example of a microaggression?
Yeah, so the microaggression, you're going to more commonly hear this with, like, if we're talking about like racial trauma or cultural trauma. But a microaggression is kind of like, you always wear your hair down like that, right? Because I'm insinuating that you need to pull your hair back up so you look a certain way, right? So it's something very underlying, right? Or you have red lipstick on today. That's cool, right? Because there's stigmas about a lot of ways that we look, right? So it could be something like that, but that can go back to domestic violence. So now I'm making you think about, should I dress this way? Should I buy this thing? Should I go to this movie? Should I listen to this? So that's kind of like what a micro is. Thank you. Yeah. How many more minutes do I have? What do people gain or lose, right? These are all questions you might be pondering. How does it feel when your partner behaves in any of these ways?
So what makes a man or woman act this way? Like, what are the root causes of behavior?
Well, you're asking a therapist. So I would say their childhood trauma, right? It's something that was modeled for them. And even if they didn't have childhood trauma, they may have branched out and went off to college or the military or to work or whatever. And other people are now modeling behavior. But that's still going to go back to what their childhood was like, right?
What do they get out of it? Sorry.
No, and me and you can have a further conversation together. But I think the payoff is some type, it brings that person, the aggressor, it brings them some type of safety for themselves. I know that sounds weird, but they're protecting themselves too. I know if I'm rude or mean to somebody, but again, I've done a lot of healing, I don't like that feeling. Even if in the moment I was pissed, right? I don't like feeling like now I've been mean to somebody. But for some people, that's satisfying because someone was mean to them probably as a child. Or they grew up in a family where violence was normal. So you go do it to everybody. And you know, this is where we see a lot of narcissism. Bless you. I see maybe narcissistic personality if we're going to diagnose them, but where people are just more focused on themselves. It's self-gratifying, right? To control something. Unfortunately, it's people sometimes, right?
Because if you're in control, then there's no surprises.
Yeah, and you're safe. She said if you're in control, there's no surprises, right? Which is true. That means I'm safe. Even if it's not healthy, I'm safe because I know what's coming next, right?
So kind of leave that to insecurity.
Sure. Yeah, I think people who, let's just say narcissism, right? People who are more narcissistic, they're more self-centered and want to think only about themselves, it leads back to that. And that person, I don't think really wants to be that way, but that's what they know how to do, right? The boundaries, right? Boundaries look different for everybody, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries. I think that boundaries also are done where you don't need to tell the person. You have had enough and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And that person already knows that. That person knows that they've been abusive to you, right? So basically protecting yourself, right? And it can be whatever you need your boundary to look like. Autonomy, right? So that's what we want for everybody. Autonomy is that I get to make a choice, whether it's my body, my mind, my spirituality, my finances, who I'm with, what family members I spend time with. That is my decision. And I would hope that's whatever clients you guys work with or people, that's what we're helping them do, right? Figure out how to be autonomous. The right of every person, right? To say yes to what they want and no to what they don't. They can give consent or they can withhold consent. And this applies to every single person on this planet. So physical autonomy, right? Freedom to make choices about your body. The body autonomy, connection to our body, affirming our body, right? Mental autonomy. What do you think about this? When do you want to do this thing? When do you want to go to the movie? How do you think that'll make you feel, right? Not versus, well, I think you're going to be anxious if you go do that thing. That's not autonomy, right? The difference between thoughts and judgments. Controlling someone's thoughts, we already kind of talked about, right? Limiting, punishing them. Emotional autonomy, right? To feel your feelings, independent of anybody else in this room, right? Everyone has a different feeling in here. And that emotions we feel as individuals do not always match other people's emotions or their experiences. Everyone's experience is different, right? Relationships. So this will be on the equality wheel, right? Comfortable pace too, just comfortability in general, trust, honesty, independence, respect, equality, autonomy.
Would you have any recommendations of like assessments that maybe, you know, if you're doing intake, you could conduct? I mean, something that isn't necessarily clinical.
Clinical.
Yeah, but definitely something for like emotional regulation.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's asking if I have an assessment tool to assess the level of healthy relationship or not. Is that your? I don't have one off the top of my head, but I will find one because all of you deserve to have something like that to use with your clients. So I will find it. I may not get it to you guys tomorrow, maybe like next week, but I will find one.
Thank you.
Safety, right? So don't share your passwords. You don't have to. You don't have to share your location. Privacy is your right. If something makes you uncomfortable, right, document it. Screenshot the text message, screenshot the email, take a video, learn about your privacy settings, post only with permission, right? That's a big one. Like a lot of people are like, I'm gonna post this picture, and you like this is a simple example, but you feel like you look a mess. And now this picture's posted. Everyone else in the picture looks good, but you. That's a very simple example, right? But say someone sent you a nude and now you posted it, right? Or you posted a video. Revenge porn, which we kind of touched on, more nude stuff, but that became a bigger thing in California recently, and there's laws about that now. The equality wheel, but this one's not inclusive. It still says her. So, but this one shows digital rights. Wait, we're still talking about like cyber safety, but controlling your privacy settings, all that stuff. But I'm going to send you guys this. I'm at the end. So, please just be updated. It is okay. It does still say Alliance here, but we are now the Open Door Network, right? So crisis hotline, our website. This is where the therapy is done at the 1921 19th Street. Although we just expanded, we do have a part-time therapist on the homeless campus. She just started. And then we have therapists that are working with the children on the homeless campus and at our other preschool we have for our domestic violence survivors. Yes.
And what's the Open Door Network's desired path to initiate a referral?
So you would start at a family justice center. You can walk in. They're open. If a case manager is in here, please tell me. I think they're open from 8:30 to 4 for walk-ins. I think I only have my, yeah.
And I think that you can Google that and find the time.
Yes, you can.
And then also, can they call?
They can call. Yes, you bet.
Actually, anybody can call 24 hours, 7 days a week. Our hotline will actually initiate an intake. There is an option there where you can request therapy, counseling, case management, or shelter.
So for you guys, yes, the Family Justice Center, but the crisis hotline. So if we're using the back that couldn't hear, clients or you can call the hotline to assist them. You can call this number 24 hours of the day. The referral may not get picked up till the next morning, but you guys can also access client services that way. Because like Yvette said, you can tell them, I just am interested in therapy. Like I'm not in crisis, I just want therapy. And I felt like I needed to call somebody right now. Housing, case management, all that type of stuff. We are expanding our services. So you want to share something else, Yvette?
But it cannot be a third party. It actually has to be the person that is wanting the services. So if you're meeting with somebody and they say they want services, then you have to redirect them to that hotline because nobody can call on behalf of the person.
And the case manager or one of these service providers can, the client call, they can be present with the client. That's more.
They can, as long as the hotline staff is able to speak to the person that we're doing the intake on.
Because it's for adults, right? And if they're calling for children, or the legal guardian.
As long as they're over the age of 12 years old, a minor can call us and can complete an intake with us. But anybody under the age of 12, it does have to be a parent. We also have interpreter services as well.
Yeah, so in the state of California, 12-year-olds can consent for their own therapeutic treatment. We do decide, we determine is it healthy to have the parent involved or not, but some cases it's not. So if they're 12 to 17, they can call the hotline or they can walk into that FJC. And then the National Domestic Violence Hotline is on here as well. And I don't know if you guys have more questions, but I am finished. Oh, yeah. Are you sure? I just didn't want to okay, we can play. Do you guys want to see the video I have on there? Yes. Yeah. I think it's embedded. You might be able to just play it. Earlier it was letting, oh. When you click on it, it's not letting you. Dang it. When I had looked at it earlier, it was letting me. Oh.
They probably changed the link.
Yes, that's why.
You know what video it was?
It's called That Is Not Love.
You tried Google it?
Yeah, I think if you go on YouTube, it'll just come up. I was like, God, am I like cutting into other people's time?
I don't think the other person's here yet, so we're good.
And then while he's setting that up, what I'll do is I'll provide them up with obviously not on that, but I can provide my. Like the love phone, yeah, take a minute. I might have touched some of you guys, whether it's your personal life, you know somebody, you work with a client, okay? So please be gentle with yourself after my presentation. I'm gonna sit in the back by Mary's car. So if anyone needs to just come talk to me for a minute, play with my fidgets, I have a couple of my purse, right? Yeah, so thank you guys. Yeah, and I feel like there might be more questions. Yes. Yeah. You guys may want to share this video with other people. Thank you guys so much.